Welcome back to Climate Change Perspectives. Minister, give us a sense on the energy-intensive industries in the country, of course mining being one of them, and this is why we've attracted so much investment within this space. We're looking at far higher electricity prices. It's starting to filter through, and you, of course, were alluding to a change in behaviour, and this is why we're starting to see cogeneration picking up extensively. But as electricity prices rise and the country starts spending more on investment, someone has to foot the bill. Is it going to be the industry itself? And obviously it's going to have a trickle-down effect, because we might actually see businesses thinking twice about investing in the country.
I just want to indicate that as a government, we have realized the importance of having a review of our electricity pricing policy. That was necessitated by the fact that we know very soon we will be going again through the MYPD, which is the multi-year price determination, where the utilities and the power generators would be applying to NERSA for a tariff determination. And we have realized that there's been indications in the country of industries that they say they have to close up because of the cost of electricity. But also with the rising oil prices, you know that there is a particular price tag that and burden that the energy sector is putting on any potential economic growth trajectory that we want to go into. That is why there was a need for us to consider the review of the electricity pricing policy. So as to look at whether we could have a particular formulation for the weight that we attach to the asset maintenance or the requirement for asset or return on investment or asset management in the utilities. So we're looking at that, but we are very much alive to the fact that South Africa used to have the cheapest, and I'm saying emphasis on used to have, the cheapest electricity, which was then deployed in industries which were very energy intense, whilst the community in South Africa, the people of South Africa, many of them did not have access. When we introduced the policy of universal access, it then created the demand, which then said that those who didn't have started to have. But we are now looking at how we could build in, and we have already worked on that. We've got the initiative with the Intensive Energy Users Group. We've got the National Business Initiative, which is an accord which will also be signing now on before the COP17, so as to make sure that each and every industry, each and every business in South Africa actually adheres to the prescript of the Accord on Energy Efficiency, because energy efficiency is the first line of available energy. That is why we're talking about CFLs. As we speak, Eskom has already rolled out more than 43 million CFLs, which has a massive saving to the electricity demand, which they say to us that the amount of electricity they have saved can light up Bloemfontein for a month. So in itself, it tells you that energy efficiency is the potential energy available for municipalities also to deploy in other developments that they cannot roll out now because of lack of access to energy. So I just want to say that we need to really start debating this energy pricing in a context.
I beg your pardon, Minister. I hear you, and I think these are noble objectives, but the saving end is at the consumer end, which for many years the average consumer has had to bear the brunt because of subsidies. You're changing that model now, but the bottom question is, how do we get to a place where the energy utilities, the SASOLs, in addition, who are major greenhouse gas emitters in this country, begin to take responsibility on investment and distribution of energy? It's a difficult task. Government is putting all the policies, but unless business comes to the table, it's going to be a difficult task.
That's why, Daniel, I say we're having this accord, because this accord is actually an agreement with industries. SASOL is part of it. Eskom is part of it. Major energy intensive users group from the mining sector is part of it. We had engagements with Anglo, because you would remember in 2009, Anglo said they cannot project their investment because they're not sure of security of supply. We have put the ball back in their court to say you can actually be own generators and co-generators. They've started doing that. Companies are now starting to say, we are going to also be investing in renewable energy. We are going to produce 450 megawatts of solar by companies that are operating in the Northern Cape. But also, some of them are starting to invest even in our solar water heating program. Also, we are busy finalizing the details of the standard offer program, where we could then be able to buy back from the consumer if they generate their own energy, in terms of the wind technology they have invested in, as well as the renewable, which is solar energy. Where they have access, they can sell back to the grid. We just need to work on the details of how the refunding and the repayments can then happen. But I just want to say that we have done a lot as a country. We've got this energy conservation scheme that is actually what companies are doing to be able to contribute. We say they must save 10%. And if they save 10%, it doesn't mean they are going to reduce production by 10%. They need to invest in energy saving mechanisms that will be equal to the 10% that they will be saving. It's like almost trading with power, but also saying that they can invest that in communities that don't have access. For example, we've got a 1 million solar water heating program. These companies can invest in 1 million solar water heating initiatives differently. We're saying 1 million solar water geysers give us 3,000 megawatts. So it means 1,000 solar water geysers can give us 300 megawatts or 30 megawatts or whatever. So a company can invest in that. Street lighting, we say we need to go off-grid. Traffic lights off-grid. Billboards off-grid. We want to make sure that there are some of the towns that can be off-grid. These companies can invest in those initiatives as an offset for what they need from the grid, because what they need is a base load. And that is why the president actually said to us in February, we as South Africa must demonstrate to ourselves and to the world that solar or renewable energy can be a base load. We are investing in the solar park in the Northern Cape, where we believe in 10 years we can generate about 5,000 megawatts. That is an indication that we're also opening up for these industries to invest in that solar park whilst they get the power from the grid.
Minister, what about ensuring that there's a solar panel in every single household in South Africa? Why has that then not been done? Because it's quite expensive,
Eleni,
and most people are saying, we want a subsidy to get that.
Speaking on this program is a bit short time, because the standard offer program actually is an avenue to allow for that. That is why I'm saying we're still working on the details, because we need to retrofit our grid to be smart grid, so that it can know that Eleni is saved so much, so we're drawing from her, and then it means at the end, you also know that your meter is smart enough to say that the utility owes me so much, or the municipality owes me so much. So the pilot that was done, remember the pilot in Shawela, that was done to be able to say the smart metering system, as well as whilst Eskom is doing the initiative to be able to look at this smart grid. A smart grid would allow us to bring during the day from renewable, like the the wind and the solar. And then when the wind is low, may not bring in from the wind, but from the grid. So that grid must have the intelligence to read that where you are not using your pool, you are not using that. So it is a massive infrastructure that we must put in place to have that.
When is your target?
Offer.
I know that you're a lady of targets, so tell us when we can
Because we
delivery.
need to lay out the infrastructure. Okay. And the infrastructure costs money. It means the challenge of the tariff comes back to us. Who is going to fund that? That is why I say between myself, DPE, as well as Eskom and National Treasury, we need to deal with the nuts and bolts on how to actually gravitate faster towards the smart grid. And I want to use your media to appeal to communities. When we use you as a pilot, we are actually saying we want to see how this system works so that it can benefit the whole country. And if you resist the pilot, you must actually know that you are taking the country back. And the commitments we would make in COP17 about smart grids, energy efficiency, and all these initiatives that can make sure that you continuously have access would become to nil because you resisted the pilot.
Coming back to the COP thing, the IEA just published a report when you were in Paris of the level of subsidy across the globe of 400, almost 500 billion dollars a year. That is an enormous amount of money and signifies that the energy sectors, the industrial complex have massive lobbies. And I'm certain, Minister, you're not immune as you enter this new phase of negotiations with the energy producers, that the lobbies are significant and that the threat that we are going to cut jobs, we will not be able to be competitive, we'll not be able to meet your targets, is an issue they use regularly. I mean, how do you deal with this? You know, we're talking, as Eleni raised, the panels, but yeah, you know, in the big game of power and in consideration of climate change, there are bigger things that citizens may not see every day, but that are happening and that you're exposed to as in devising policy, or is that a misread of the situation?
Our companies or major corporations in South Africa, as part of those in the world, are part of what we call the World Business Council. They would also be having their own platform to say what is their contribution to the reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions, as well as to mitigate and adapt to climate change. But we as South Africa are having Minister of Trade, Minister of Economic Development, Minister Patel, myself, Minister of Treasury, Minister of Water and Environment. We are part of an initiative that would result now on the Green Economy Accord, where business, community, labor and government is committing to a particular trajectory to make it possible that we can then gravitate faster towards this green economy that we're talking about, which means that business is committing to a particular a behavioral change, mindset change about how they produce and how they actually consume energy as well as other resources, but also what their contribution will be in this green initiative. Because we believe that is one of the ways to make sure that we create jobs. And we are saying that we're working with them to look at how we can localize and make sure that there's local beneficiation of the different commodities that are produced in South Africa. Mineral resources is also part of that initiative. So I am very hopeful about the commitment from business. It is up to them to prove me and you wrong that they are not committed to the green economy trajectory, because if they sign the accord and agree with us in the Social Partners Forum, and then they go out and say something else in terms of the way they continue producing their commodities, it will be problematic. That is why I'm saying I am engaging with business. We've got on our side as energy the initiative with the NBI and the accord. So I am really believing in the ability of South Africans to work together. That is why our theme for the COP17 says, working together, saving tomorrow today. So it is part of that initiative. And I'm worried because it seems that you know something that I don't know, that they are not committed.
It's not that. I think anyone who begins to read the situation, and business will be business, and business are an important part for government in South Africa to achieve its target.
Okay, we're almost out of time, and I've got one last question for you, Minister. Nuclear energy in South Africa, 1 trillion rand is what we're going to be investing in. Germany's phasing this out after what we saw coming through in Japan. There's a lot of negative news, and here we are embarking on nuclear plans. Please tell us briefly your thoughts.
We are very excited. I said earlier on that we introduced our integrated resource plan, or adopted it in cabinet 5 days after Fukushima. The cabinet said, go back and develop a plan. We now adopted a plan that speaks to the structures that we need to have in place as part of the Nuclear Policy and Nuclear Act. We are also putting in the technical teams that would work with the sectors to make sure that this nuclear is actually deployed in a very cost-efficient but also affordable way into the equation. But we're also saying how South African companies as well as communities are going to benefit from this build. So the amount of money we will spend on this build must benefit South Africans, because we want to realize indirect jobs. We want to realize the manufacturing growth potential. We want to realize skills development. We want to realize the potential to move South Africa into a higher industrial development process. We've got the skills, we've got the technology, we've got the resource. We are part with Namibia and Niger and others having uranium, that we have the technology to beneficiate locally. So we believe that we've got the capacity. The only thing that is going to be a challenge is if we take decisions that are not going to guarantee the safety. That is why we are engaging with higher education institutions and construction industries in the nuclear forum to say, what is the capacity of South Africa on this particular belt? We don't want a company from Europe, a company from Asia or from America to be the main developer. And that is why I just want to make it clear here that Eskom has been doing the environmental impact issues and all that to make sure that whatever amount of money we spend can be under the control of the state. Because nuclear is also a safety issue consideration that we have to make. It is not just like coal and others. And in any case, I must say it here, that any energy source has potential risks. Be it a candle, be it a paraffin, be it whatever, it has potential to destroy, to kill, and that is why we have to protect it. But I'm just saying, the cost to the state and to the end consumer is central to the plan that we have tabled in cabinet. And we are very excited. But you have raised in the beginning the energy intensive users group. And that nuclear is to say to them, you can continue investing in South Africa because we are concerned about security of supply. So the plan tells you that without nuclear, our security of supply is jeopardized. And with nuclear, it is guaranteed. And that is why we built it in.
Fantastic. Minister, we have to leave it there. I think you're right to say that never enough time to discuss these matters. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you on the program. On that note, we've come to the end of this week's edition of Climate Change Perspectives. A big thank you to the South African Minister of Energy, Dipuo Peters, and a big thank you, of course, to Daniel Kinnear, my co-host from the Africa Strategy Group. From me, Eleni, Giokos, it's goodbye.